Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. There's a storm brewing in downtown Durham right now and a tornado warning. So if Matt and I die in the middle of this broadcast, it's been real. So I don't know if you heard or not, but President Trump was acquitted. You might not have heard, not a lot of people are talking about it. Every Democrat voted guilty. Every Republican voted innocent. Save one, Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney voted that the president was guilty of abuse of power, but not guilty of obstruction of Congress. And he is being held up as a hero to the left for doing the right thing, and as a villain from the right for breaking ranks. I've been asked about 1,000 times on social what I think about that result, but I wanted to spend some time and review the case and also call 3 lawyer friends that I have and get their opinion and kind of talk through it to make sure I was thinking about it the right way. The 3 lawyers that I called are all conservative Republicans. I wanted to get the most pro-Trump conservative bias that I could get when talking to lawyers before making my own decision. So in short, before going off with my gut, I wanted to talk to 3 attorneys that I have tremendous respect for. My gut agreed with them. So here's my opinion. I tend to think that very few people other than Mitt Romney tried to do the right thing. On the obstruction of Congress charge, the Democrats didn't come close to proving their case. Not even in the ballpark. They would have needed a lot more witnesses and a lot more evidence to get anywhere near like an absolute decision that the president obstructed Congress. So I think a reasonable person thinks that they did not get it done, but yet every single one of them voted guilty on that charge. I completely understand contentious elections. I completely understand that people are going to be clouded by emotion, but for every single Democrat to come to the conclusion that he was guilty, it's just such a stretch that I just don't believe it was genuine. So then on to the abuse of power charge. I'm going to use one of my lawyer friends' exact quote because frankly, it was money. The evidence presented compels the conclusion that the president attempted to coerce an allied nation to investigate a debunked conspiracy theory in a domestic political rival as a precedent to receiving vital American military aid that had already been approved by Congress. This was an abuse of the office's foreign policy powers. In other words, the president did a wicked bad thing by essentially applying pressure to dig up dirt on Biden so that he could hurt him later because, frankly, Biden is probably his biggest opponent. So dig up the dirt on Biden or you don't get aid that was already approved by Congress. Looking at this, I have to say he absolutely abused his power.
Over the line!
Many of you, including people at RU, have said, but don't all presidents do this shit? And my answer is, I don't know, probably. Which brings up the second part of the impeachment question. If he is guilty, should he be removed from office? I think this largely depends on your outlook on life. If you're an idealist, then absolutely the president should be removed from office if he abused his power. If you feel like this is normal modus operandi for politicians, then you probably think, whatever, so what? So if I was a senator, how would I vote? Exactly like Mitt Romney did. I think that was exactly the right vote. I think the president clearly did not obstruct Congress based on the evidence, and I think the president clearly abused power based on the evidence. Would I have then voted to remove him from office if he were found guilty? I tend to think no. But I can't really answer that question without seeing the evidence that we were not privy to that was held in secret behind closed doors. I know that's going to piss a lot of you off, but I'm not sitting here to tell you what you want to hear. I look forward to the lambastings and insults in the comments section. But if you recall many, many moons ago, I told you this is exactly how the whole thing was going to play out. The parties and pundits are so contentious right now, no one is thinking about America, everyone is thinking about getting the other guy. The House had a ham-fisted, totally incomplete impeachment trial that showed they were not out for the truth, but rather just to get the president as quickly as possible and do damage. The Senate, for their part, responded with the fastest hand wash of a trial maybe ever in order to just get this whole thing over with and put it to bed. The House did all of this to hurt the president before the election, but instead, he has the highest approval rating that he has ever had since being elected. Meanwhile, we have a Democratic Iowa caucus that can't seem to just count votes, which is really all they have to do. They've known this is coming for ages. And we have a Speaker of the House that didn't use the president's proper title and then ripped up the State of the Union address dramatically on national television right after he finished his speech. All of this is playing into what the president has accused the Democrats of all along. This is a witch hunt. They can't beat him in the polls, so they're trying to take him out some other way. It's like they're running a playbook for how to lose an election. I maintain my contention that I made, a year and a half ago, that he's going to win re-election. And not only that, but because of the play that Speaker Pelosi did, if he wins re-election, she is going to be asked to step down as Speaker 2 years earlier than she previously had agreed to. I've given her a lot of credit over the years for holding together this shit show of a Democratic caucus that can't seem to agree on anything and is constantly infighting, but this was a terrible impeachment process and did a whole lot to hurt the Democratic Party, and she's largely responsible for that. I went on for quite a while about impeachment, so I'm going to keep my discussion of the State of the Union address short. No matter what you think about impeachment, agree with me, think he should have been found on all counts, think he should have been found on no counts. The State of the Union address was President Trump's victory lap. The president gave a very strong speech that relentlessly hit upon how strong the economy is, how low unemployment is, and how well we're all doing right now. He talked about combating human trafficking, which is awesome because that remains America's dirty little secret even after Epstein killed himself. He paid homage to the military and to the Tuskegee Airmen. He only really went negative against sanctuary cities, citing a few instances in New York and California where people that had been released from crimes because they were sanctuary citizens ended up killing people or creating mayhem. The only weird moment for me was when Rush Limbaugh received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But there's quite a few questionables on that list already, so I'm just going to let that one slide. We should probably start a campaign to get Joe Rogan one, though, because why not?
The coronavirus has continued to spread. Mainland China has agreed to let top health professionals in from the U.S. in order to help. Thus far, over 500 people have died and over 30,000 people have contracted the virus. 2 cruise ships full of people, one in Japan and one in Hong Kong, have been quarantined after a number of passengers were found to have symptoms. A new hospital in Wuhan has been constructed in under a week's time, and a second is on the way to accommodate patients. When Dr. Li originally released reports of the coronavirus, he was summoned by Wuhan police and forced to sign a letter of reprimand saying that he disturbed the peace and was releasing propaganda and lies. At least 25 countries have reported experiencing coronavirus outbreaks, including the US. Many of these countries at this time have begun issuing trade and travel bans on China. The Chinese government, for its part, has said that many of the country's leaderships have been stoking fears and inciting propaganda in order to diminish China's reputation amongst the world. In all, it's pretty standard stuff from Beijing.
The Iowa caucuses finally kicked off for Democrats and soon afterwards spiraled into chaos, confusion, and embarrassment. When the phone application began malfunctioning, immediately, they had to go to the hotlines in order to count votes. Many were placed on hold, and some of those people gave up and simply didn't vote. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, things went smoothly and the president received 97% of the Iowa votes. The Democratic Party spent the night making quality checks after they found inconsistencies in the results. Eventually, the results began to trickle in with no clear winner. The trickle has been so slow that it has literally taken days to get to a 96% reporting rate. And now the DNC chairman is asking for a total recanvass of all the votes because he doesn't trust those results. Will we ever know how Iowa feels? For now, it looks like Sanders won the popular vote, but he and Mayor Pete are gonna split those delegates 11-11, with Warren picking up the leftovers.
A man only being identified as Gerardo is recovering from surgery. Why, you ask? Gerardo has been experiencing headaches, sweating, vomiting, and nausea, and has been generally feeling off for a few months. The mystery was revealed once Texas doctors did a CAT scan of Gerardo's head, where the CAT scan revealed a tapeworm growing within his brain. Doctors suggested that it had been growing there for months after Gerardo had eaten undercooked pork in his travels to Mexico. The worm was reportedly removed and Gerardo is feeling better. Doctors reportedly said that this case was very rare. In fact, it was one in a million.
NASA astronaut Christina Koch has landed safely in Kazakhstan.
This is my country of Kazakhstan. It locates between Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and asshole Uzbekistan.
This marks the longest time that a woman has ever been in space and should give researchers data on the long-term effects of such a journey. She's set to make some PR rounds before returning home to Houston, Texas. But she said of the trip, "I had a blast."
The world lost a titan of the film industry and a centurion this week when Kirk Douglas died at the age of 103. His career spanned nearly a century and influenced many films after his. He was known as a maverick and a shaker of the status quo. The movie star and Navy veteran leaves behind 4 sons and his wife Parasine, who is 100 years old. Fair wind, sir.
The Chiefs won the Super Bowl against the 49ers. It was a pretty good game for 3 quarters, but once the Chiefs got up, we knew the game was over because Jimmy Garoppolo is not Tom Brady. There were some people that were upset that Shakira and J-Lo got on stage, took off all their clothes, got on stripper poles, and touched themselves on national television, but those people are just assholes.
A Canadian and failed mayoral candidate was jailed this week after burning $1 million cash that was supposed to go to his ex-wife during their divorce filings. 55-year-old Bruce McConville torched the $1 million, which he made off of selling off his assets, which the courts told him not to do. He said that he had bank receipts to prove that he withdrew the money, but no actual footage or witnesses to prove that he burned the cash. Surprisingly, the judge didn't go for his "I burnt the cash" story and stated that he should pay $2,000 a day to his ex-wife until such time that he releases his finances to the court. The judge also made McConville write a letter of apology to his wife for burning the money. McConville also burnt that letter.
In Florida Man news, 2 men holding bags of drugs labeled "bag of drugs" were arrested this week. Florida troopers have arrested 2 men that tried a terrible bit of reverse psychology. Troopers stopped the car of 2 alleged drug dealers only to search the vehicle and find bags labeled "bag of drugs." That not so inconspicuous bag was filled with date rape pills, fentanyl, MDMA, cocaine, and methamphetamines. The Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office said, "Note to self, do not label your bag of drugs because our canines can read." God, Florida, I love you. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already. And remember, just because she dances oh, it don't make her a ho-no. And also use code BNN at rangerup.com for 25%